Hello and welcome to another project for the Vicki Boutin design team. This time I'm using the Color Kaleidoscope brand new watercolor markers. And I'm taping off using Skinny Illustrated Faith washi tape. We're going to make triangles on the left side of the layout. And this is a really easy watercolor marker technique that anyone can do to create the marbling effect. So right now I'm just taping off the different triangles and trying to get them all different in different shapes and different angles down the left side of the layout. And I'm making sure to burnish each strip of the washi tape just so that when I float the water on it, the water won't go underneath the tape. We're going to be using water to float the watercolor marker color and create the marbling. So each time I lay it down, you'll notice that I'm using my nail to burnish each section. Okay, so you'll notice I have a Vicki Boutin water brush filled with water. Off to the side, it's the wider brush with the wide bristles. And I'm using that because I really want to add a lot of water to each triangle. I'm using an X-Acto knife to trim off the excess so that the triangle edges will be even and there won't be these little marks with the excess tape. So the whole key to this technique is the water has to go down on the triangle first. So that is the Vicki Boutin water brush. And here are the brand new Color Kaleidoscope watercolor markers. I showed you the skew, but it's sped up I think 8 times so that I would be under 15 minutes. So you'll have to pause it at that section where I showed you the skew. There are 12 markers in the set. I'm removing the bright lime green ring to allow the color to flow into the brush. So I'm adding water to that, and I add enough water so that it pools and stays in the triangle and doesn't flow over the edges of the tape. And I'm dotting each color. I'm adding the sugared strawberry, the cotton candy, and this is the yellow. In some of the sections I just dotted the brush to the water and it will bleed out into the water. So now I'm using, I believe this is mint julep or blue Hawaiian. You'll see I'm moving in a swirling motion so that creates the marbling look. So once you have your water on, all you're going to do is touch the color of the watercolor brush marker that you want to create and swirl it in a forward and backward C motion. See how I'm swirling that to the left and the right, just so that you get an organic feel and a marble look. And you can touch the other colors to mix some of the colors. So I'm moving, I'm not doing adjacent triangles, I'm moving down and doing triangles that aren't touching each other just so they won't bleed and the color won't be contaminated. So you'll notice I'm using pink, I'm using warm colors together, and then other triangles I'm using cool colors together. And it's okay if more color comes out than you expect, you can just swirl it. See how I'm swirling the blueberry? And once this dries, it will really look like a marbling effect or technique. So I'm leaving that as swirly as it is and just letting that air dry. I think the key to this is letting it mostly air dry, and then at the very end you can heat emboss, but you don't want to move the color around too much. You want it to stay floating on the water like it is. So this, I think it's called plum pudding. This purple one is very highly pigmented, and you'll see how much color comes out, but I just swirl the edges and continue to swirl and make circular motions so that you don't have any straight edges in your triangle. Now I'm going to add the turquoise, and that's okay if a bigger blob comes out than you expect. You can just swirl that into the previous color, just like that. So I'm using the Vicki Boutin water brush to kind of smooth out some of that. There There was too much color pulled there at the top, but it probably would have dried okay. So the unique thing about this is every triangle is going to look different. Here we're adding the yellow and just swirling it on. Then I'm going to touch the cotton candy and the sugared strawberry down to the lower portion of the triangle. What I tried to do with the yellow and the pink triangles was to add just barely any of the pink because it will create a strong orange color. You can tilt your paper to get some movement going. Here I'm going to another triangle, adding my water first with the Vicki Boutin paintbrush, and then swirling on the color again. It's really fun to watch how each of the triangles ends up different even though I'm using the same markers. So I'm going back. I thought that this yellow and orange one didn't have enough of the orange color, so I'm going back. You can dab off some of the water. If you don't like how a section turns out, just dab off some of the water and try it again. It's super easy. You'll notice that a lot of the color came out on this purple one, but all I did was swirl it into the previous turquoise color. And I'm taking off some of the excess water on that orange and yellow triangle and trying again since I wasn't happy with how that looked. So I'm going to add the sugared strawberry here at the bottom and swirl it up into the yellow that was there. And you'll notice once it dries, it looks a lot different. Just like all watercolors, it doesn't look that great when it's wet, but once it dries, it really looks great. I love these watercolor markers. This is a great way to add a new mixed media effect into your paper crafts. So that's the blueberry pie. As Vicki has said, it's a very strong and highly pigmented marker. So I just used very little of that color. This triangle I wanted to do a light pink and then a darker pink. So I let that set for a little bit, and now I'm just dotting on the darker pink in swirling motions at the top. So here it has air dried, and at the very end I just heat embossed a little bit of the back of the paper so that it was not warped. And this paper is the White Foundations Mixed Media Art paper by Vicki Boutin, and it handles that excess amount of water really well for these type of mixed media techniques. Now I'm moving on to the photos. I have two photos here from Vicki Boutin's booth at CHA or Creativation. And I'm adding the banners to the top to kind of highlight and point toward the two photos. Those are going up on pop dots. I'm using the two embellishment packs, the two die cut packs. And you'll notice I use the White Foundations Mixed Media Art paper to create these excess triangles with the marbling technique and the same marker colors. And I'm adding those just to point towards the photo as well. And just to add some of that technique to the right side of the layout so it doesn't look unbalanced. I'm using pop dots to add each of the little banner triangle shapes to the layout and just attaching the crochet thread under the pop dot. Here's a frame from the ephemera, the journaling die cut pack. I'm going to not place the photo directly behind the frame, I'm just going to use it as a layering piece. And the Making Stuff Happen works as the title on the page. And I love all the turquoise or the teal butterfly and the yellow butterfly. Even though I'm using a rainbow color scheme on this layout, mostly I'm highlighting the teal, the magenta, and the orange since Vicki has an orange sweater on. So I journaled on my We Are Memory Keepers typewriter, and I'm cutting that into strips and adding it under the two photos there in a line. So that label is going to have the date. I typed the date and I'm going to just glue it onto that label. And we're almost finished. Thanks so much for joining me for this easy marbling technique with Vicki Boutin's new Color Kaleidoscope watercolor markers. Thanks for joining me. Bye.